Well, the good news is that markets are trending up this morning, have just popped into the green, including Tesla also is popping into the green. So that's a good thing. Kind of looks like that's the trend this morning. The economic reports are either flat or a little tiny bit down, but nothing dramatic. The good, really good news, more and more good news, is the bond yields are down. Anyway, let's take a look at the details here. We've got Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce. He says, buy Tesla, the best technology, the best, Elon Musk is the best technologist of our time, and the stock is cheap. It's unlikely to ever be lower than it is now. This was quite a comment coming from our Secretary of Commerce. Can't hurt. That was on Fox News last night, where Fox News continues to pump, pump, pump Elon Musk and Tesla. Can't knock that deal. Musk needs to do these two things to change the narrative. This is, of course, Dan Ives, who has all of a sudden become quite the critic. He says it starts with Doge. Tesla and Musk are facing a defining chapter in their future, and how Musk handles this next few months will be pivotal to the long-term growth trajectory of Tesla, in our view. I have no idea how what he does in the next 2 months is going to be critical to the. I mean, sorry, Dan. I usually think you're 100% on. Tesla is Musk and Musk is Tesla. That's true. They are synonymous and attached together and cannot be separated. For the last 15 years, Musk has guided Tesla through many challenges to build Tesla into the global brand it has become today. We have been there for the ride with many ups and downs and defended the stock again and again. And Tesla is the best disruptive technology player in the world. Let's call it like it is, however. This is what Dan has to say. Tesla is going through a crisis, and there's only one person who can fix it, Musk. If you agree or disagree with Doge, it misses the point that by Musk spending 110% of his time with Doge and not a Tesla CEO, since President got into the White House and has essentially turned Tesla into a political symbol, and this is a bad thing. The brand damage started off was limited in our view, but based on our initial survey their initial survey work, which we reported on a couple of weeks ago, but now it has spread globally over the last few weeks into what we would characterize as a brand tornado crisis. And it's a crisis moment for Tesla and Musk. I just don't agree. I see the opposite side of it. I see Republicans now lining up to buy the cars. I see Republicans taking a first look at the stock. My son, rock rib conservative like me, called me or sent me a text yesterday morning. He says, should I be buying Tesla at this point? He had never talked about buying Tesla stock. I have suggested it to him in the past. He's the one that texted me. I think this is going to be an overall positive, and I don't think he's spending 110% of his time on Tesla. I mean, I'm sorry, on Doge. I seem to see him on all kinds of shows promoting the product, which is the value is incomparable. You can't even count it, how much value there's been to the PR recently. The violence at Tesla dealers. Well, yeah, that's a problem. Cars being keyed in parking lots. Blame the Democrats. Social movements against Musk around the globe. That's not Elon's fault. Elon gets to say what he believes. Have all created a massive overhang for Tesla stock. Trump buying a Tesla with an event at the White House last week is great political theater, but has not resolved the current brand demand problem for Musk and Tesla, and in some ways makes it a more of a political lightning rod issue for Tesla. Well, that's true. This is a moment of truth for Musk, and there are two things Elon needs to do to end the crisis and make sure it does not snowball into a black swan event for the Tesla brand. I just don't think so. As someone who is a core bull and believer in Tesla long term, I loudly urge Musk and the board to step in, stop being silent, and help resolve the issues forming at Tesla. The two things that Musk must do in the next few months to stop the crisis. Number one, formally announce Musk is going to balance Doge and being Tesla CEO. I'm good with that. And I think he's going to do that in less than 2 months. Musk needs to make a statement, and his actions speak louder than words. We would expect this to happen either before or during the first quarter earnings conference call in early May. I'm sure he'll be asked about it. 100% positive. Investors need to see Musk take a step back and balance his Doge and Tesla CEO roles. I think that's 100% fine. If he does this, the heat from Musk around Doge will start to dissipate among most of his critics, and this will leave a scar for Tesla, but not permanent brand damage. Again, I'm looking at brand damage on the one side. I'm looking at brand positivity in the market. The number one largest TAM, the number one potential market in the world is conservatives in the United States. This is the unaddressed market so far by Tesla, and now is being addressed. Number two, give the roadmap and timing for the new lower cost vehicle to be released in the market in 2025, along with the unsupervised FSD rollout in Austin this June. With a Model Y refresh, inventory issues, and a host of demand issues with Musk brand damage worry, there's one person Tesla investors need to hear from, that's Musk. We maintain our outperform and 550 price target and remain firmly bullish on Tesla, but Musk needs to change course here. Tesla's future depends on it. So I would like to have all the things that he just asked for. I'd like to hear what the Model Q is going to be. We'd like to see pictures. We'd like to see prices. We'd like to hear more about the ramp going on right now of the Model Y refresh. All of those things would be great. And probably going to hear about those, if not before, we'll probably hear about them at the conference call. Libs of TikTok. I think this is the first time I've ever quoted them. The Daily Show is justifying and practically celebrating, with the crowd cheering, the attacks on Teslas and Tesla locations, suggesting Elon deserves it. The audience erupts in cheers to footage of Teslas on fire. They prove that people are mad at Elon and playing clips from town halls, which feature Soros-funded protesters. This is sick and deranged. I 100% agree. It's horrible. Washington, this is from Reuters. Tesla said Thursday it is recalling nearly all Cybertrucks in the United States to fix an exterior panel that could detach while driving, the latest in a series of callbacks for the pickup truck. The recall covers just over 46,000 vehicles built from November 2023 through February of this year, Tesla said in a filing with the NHTSA. The recall addresses risks a stainless steel exterior trim panel can detach from the vehicle, making it a road hazard. Tesla service will replace the rail panel, etc. NHTSA notified Tesla of a vehicle owner that alleged a rail panel exactly one. Tesla said, but Tesla's taking care of it. They said you could hear a detectable noise inside the cabin before this happens. So if you hear that detectable noise, you certainly want to make an immediate change. Other than that, obviously, it's it's something that you need to take care of. If you have a Cybertruck, you need to go in and get it repaired. Barron's not helping on Thursday was a price target cut from Piper Sandler Alexander Potter. He reduced his price target to $450 from $500. All right, I'm okay with that. Potter is still a bull, though, and he kept his buy rating on the stock, noting that Tesla looks cheap based on existing car and energy business. The stock doesn't reflect any upside for either taxis, robotaxis, or robots. Wow, I guess I knew that, but holy mackerel, 450 to 500 from 500 based on cars and energy alone. I think that's super ridiculous. I'm sorry. I think that the car and energy business is worth around 225. I've been saying that for a very long time. Even with my new numbers that I put out last night, if you didn't take a look at that, last night I showed where I believe we'll get to 2.325 vehicles this year. And even with that number, even with the really good energy numbers, I still think the cars and energy is worth about $225 a share. This is Randy Kirk. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, notify, please join Patreon. That would be wonderful. Normal stuff today, as far as I know, it'll be, if the creek don't rise. Anyway, we've got it's Thursday, so that must be Bradford Ferguson, followed by Cern Basher. In the week ending March 15th, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted initial claims was 223,000, an increase of 2,000. In other words, a nothing burger. The previous week's level was revised up by 1,000, nothing burger. The 4-week moving average was 227,000, an increase of 750, nothing burger. So the only thing that might be, anyway, the previous week's average was revised up by 250. So in other words, the stock market may be going up now this morning because that whole report was flat, normal, been the same for months and months and months. Market watch adds, however, the number of jobless workers collecting unemployment benefits rose by 33,000 to 1.89 million. These so-called continuing claims have risen gradually over the past 2 years because it's taking longer for people who lose a job to find another. All right, that's something we've been talking about. Philly Fed. Responses to the March Manufacturing Business Outlook Survey suggest regional manufacturing activity expanded overall this month. The indicators for current activity, new orders, and shipments all declined, but remained in positive territory. On balance, the firms indicated an increase in employment and continue to report increases in prices. The survey's broad indicator for future activity suggested less widespread expectations for growth over the next 6 months. Looking a bit deeper, this is Randy speaking now, the bugaboo continues to be uncertainty. It occurred to me that many domestic manufacturers definitely rely, at least partially, on imports for their raw materials, for their components, and even finished goods. For instance, when I was a manufacturer, the vast majority of my product was made in the United States, but I imported lots of stuff from China. I've been importing from China for 35 years now. So yeah, I had both. And components. Sometimes you could be buying raw materials or components that you would add to your product in the United States. That's very normal. It could be packaging, for instance, alone. Sometimes you might make the entire product in the United States, but you would import your packaging because packaging in the United States is crazy expensive. Okay, this from Barron's. All right, this is a long article. This is very important. It is over 10% of the overall economy. It is over, and housing, which is what we're going to be talking about, also has an impact on another 10% of the economy. So looking at 20% of the economy. So Robert Dietz, he's the top guy at NAHB. So he's forecasting. Here's his. This is long. I would hang in there though. It's very, very important. He says single family housing will be flat in 2025, but remodeling will continue to grow. He says the remodeling market is likely to approach a super cycle. He says it's often a necessary step for seniors to stay in their home. About 10 years ago, remodeling only accounted for 30% of residential construction. Today, it is closer to 40, and he thinks it'll go to 45% of residential construction. So if you're a senior like me, a lot of you are, a huge number of the people that watch this show are seniors. If you're thinking of remodeling, plan to, it's not going to be easy to find that labor. There will be a lot of similarity to last year's in terms of mortgage interest rates. That is high volatility and rates trending down to 6% even, I think actually going into the fives very soon, actually. Down payment requirements will be about the same, which is challenging, but you can get 3% rate. You can get 3% down. That's not hard. In fact, if you work hard enough, you can get 0% down. By the way, if you have children or friends who have never bought a home before, you can get first-time home buyer help and actually get cash money. Talk to my realtor. His information is down below. So what does this all mean for home prices? On a national level, we expect a slight gain in prices again because of ongoing lean inventories, which is what Randy has been saying. But the rate of growth is going to slow because of affordability constraints. Our price forecast is only a 1%. That would be shocking and would be the final blow to inflation. I don't think he's right on this one. I think we'll be looking at closer to 2.5% to 3% this year, which will still be good in terms of inflation, but it won't be as good as his thought that it'll only be 1%. I think the economy is going to be too hot, mortgage rates going down, and no inventory. Anyway, in the near term, we expect existing home inventory to rise. For builders and existing homeowners, there's simply going to be more competition. The result is price growth could be a little lower than last year. In some places, you've already seen softer prices. Austin, Texas has been mentioned. Florida has been mentioned. Another market is Denver. We have seen an uneven but somewhat declining trend for mortgage rates. We might see a 5.9% 30-year fixed rate mortgage by the end of 2026, down from current about 6.65. No, I think you'll see that 5.9 soon. And you can buy down your mortgage to 5.9. It's not that hard. The wild card will be what kind of progress we see on inflation. Most buyers now recognize that mortgage rates aren't going to come down to 4%, not anytime soon, but not impossible. The challenge is down payment requirements. So unless you get a rise in incomes and increase in savings, the down payment requirement essentially becomes a showstopper. How can you even say that? You can get 3% down, even on $1 million house. It's $30,000. I mean, I don't understand what he's talking about. New home construction rose 11.2% in February. What do you make of that? The question is asked. 1 month isn't going to be a useful exercise. So the permits are not as good. So he's concerned that this is going to be not continuing. There's a lot of momentum in the industry among remodelers and single family home builders. The apartment sector is a bit down right now. Yeah, they overbuilt. The number one concern I heard expressed at the show was economic and policy uncertainty. Yes, I agree. A lot of it's related to tariffs, immigration, and extension of the 2017 tax cuts. How quickly regulatory reform will bring benefits to the land development market and construction space. These are things that people are uncertain about. There's uncertainty on the macro side about monetary policies. And, all of that is true. I agree. How do the builders think about the Trump administration tariffs? They're concerned about cost pressures that tariffs can create. Roughly 70% of building materials are imported. And of that total, more than 20% comes from China, a bit more, 20% comes from Canada and Mexico. It isn't just lumber, it's gypsum and drywall. A third of all appliances are imported. A large share of refrigerators are manufactured in Mexico. The higher cost of building materials is a negative risk factor, even though those builders are supportive of the tariffs. And there are some who think tariffs are part of the comprehensive plan that would reduce government spending and the deficit, which would mean lower interest rates. Oh, we got smart people in the business. Would like to know the rules of the road. That's all they want to know. What is going to happen in April 2nd or sooner? We should know a lot about that. What other likely policy changes are builders looking forward to this year? Home builders have a positive view of the impacts that would come from extending the 2017 tax cuts. Builders are hopeful that we'll see regulatory policy moving in the direction that would help increase housing supply, which would be positive for everybody. Zoning rules, permit fees, impact fees, delays in the terms of getting projects approved and started. All of these are why we are underbuilt right now, which I've been talking about for 2 years on this channel. I do know a little bit about this market. I have a little bit of special knowledge in this market. My hope is that the Trump administration will encourage state and local governments to bring these burdens down. The Trump administration previously talked about opening up more land for timber harvesting. That would have a huge impact. The policy issue I was initially skeptical about, but have come around to seeing as having a lot of potential, is the idea of opening up federal land to build on. If you look at a map of federal land, there's a lot in the West and mountain states. Struck me as a mismatch between the need for housing and what was available. I've come around particularly with respect to its possibility for infill development. Think about land held by federal buildings or occupied by large government warehouses. Federal property is no longer needed, can be repurposed for building townhouses or medium density housing in the cities and burbs. The cost and availability of property insurance has emerged as a problem, especially in Florida and California. Some of the gains in insurance costs were due to pricing increases for reinsurance. Some of it is policy failure. Home buyers should assume that property insurance costs are going to increase in the years ahead. I would say yes and no. They'll increase and then they won't. There are things the construction industry can do to help. The cost of insurance is the cost to rebuild and repair. So all the things we just identified are challenges for housing, or also challenges for rebuilding when homes have to be rebuilt. Anyway, home listings are more plentiful than last year. But there's still a huge supply gap. I added huge. It is important to distinguish between cyclical inventory and structural housing deficit. The structural housing deficit is a mismatch between the size and status of the housing stock versus the population. Look at the demographics, Randy says. No, they said it. 2 decades ago, 1 in 10 young adults essentially lived on their parents' couch. Today, it's more than 1 out of 5. It's consequential. It matters to the structural deficit of the housing stock. The U.S. continues to have a structural housing deficit of about 1.5 million homes. This is both single-family homes and apartments. Some of these larger estimates, like 4 million deficit, are too big, but it's still over a full year's production that they're short in housing. Home purchasing costs are still challenging. Any encouraging words for buyers? He finally asks. A common question is, I get it. How do we get out of this? Do home prices have to go down 10 or 20% for affordability to improve? In the medium term, improvements in housing affordability will come from a declining trend toward 6% mortgage rates, additional housing supply, maybe wage gains, maybe the cost of building, and some of those would create opportunities. Okay, then we have on the same day existing home sales data. Existing home sales advanced 4.2% in February to a seasonally adjusted annual rate 4.26 million, and sales slipped 1.2% from a year ago. Home buyers are, quote, home buyers are slowly entering the market, said NAR Chief Economist Lawrence Yun. Mortgage rates have not changed much, but more inventory and choices are releasing pent-up housing demand. Total housing inventory registered at the end of February was 1.24 million units, up 5.1% from January. That's not nearly enough to make a difference, and 17% from a year ago. That's good. It won't last. Unsold inventory sits at a 3.5-month supply at the current sold pace, identical to January. 3.0 months historically is nuts. That's nationally an average. So that means lots of homes are still selling in a month. On a technical note, new sales in February were down 5.2% from last year, which is a leap year, so therefore it's not surprising. However, after adjusting for this effect, combined with winter seasonal factors, momentum for home sales is flashing encouraging signs. The median existing home price for all housing types in February was $398,000, just under $400,000, up 3.8 from 1 year ago. I think this will come down, but it will not come down to that suggested 1%. And just breaking before I came on, the leading indicators are softer, but still showing 2% GDP growth. As you know, I think we'll end up around 2% for the year, but I think we'll be in the fourth quarter, we're going to be at 3.5. The U.S. LEI fell again. Leading indicator economic indicators fell again in February. It continues to point towards headwinds ahead. According to Justiana Zabinska-Lamonica, I love that name, senior manager business cycle indicators at the Conference Board. Consumer expectations of future business conditions turn more pessimistic. That was the component that weighed most heavily on the index in February. Manufacturing new orders, which improved in January, retreated a bit and were the largest negative contributor in the index monthly decline. On a positive note, LEI's 6-month and annual growth rates, while still negative, have remained on an upward trend since the end of 2023, suggesting that headwinds for the economy as of February may have moderated compared to last year. However, giving substantial policy uncertainty and notable pullback in consumer sentiment, spending, we currently forecast a real GDP growth of 2%. All right, so you can see all of that content, all that information was not that bad. And so where are we right now? Well, the markets have continued to go up and to the right. Tesla found its point of somebody wanting to take some profits, but we're still up 0.01% in dollars and cents. Whoops. In dollars and cents, that is 10 cents. Actually, down 10 cents now. Okay, so the Dow is up. Dow is up 0.46%. NASDAQ is up 0.55%. S&P is up 0.4%. And Tesla is now back up 0%. The Magnificent Seven is all up, mostly in that range, anywhere from, well, we got Meta up 3.62, kind of reacting to its downward slide recently. NVIDIA up nicely this morning. Tesla now up 0.03%, and the Magnificent Seven all up except for TDOC. I told you last night that Square is up every day because it was so far down. It is now beginning to build back up again, apparently, after whatever messed up their day. Okay, let's go ahead. The cool thing this morning, of course, is bonds. And we've got the bonds now down 0.55, 0.52 which is not as good as it was, but it's still good. We're at 4.204, which is under 4.25. You can do the math. So I'm very happy, but we need to go down another 20 basis points here and get down to 399. The 2-month is up a little bit, barely, call it flat, and the 2-year is down 3 basis points. So that's where we are this morning on the bonds. Okay, let's go ahead, and which is good news, excellent news. We got the oil patch. We got up 72 cents this morning to 67.88. So very much where we've been. Brent a little higher, 71.38. Actually, Iran said this morning they're willing to sit down and talk. You would think that would be settling things down a bit. Natural gas down 3.41%, $4.10. Very, very much in the range that it has been recently. Gold unchanged this morning, but sitting very close to its all-time high, 3,041. Silver down a tad, 0.63%, going back under 34. That's interesting, but 33.99. 1 cent under 34. Copper is down 0.32%, but staying over $5 at $5.08. And the dollar mixed, and Bitcoin is at 86,151, up 787 this morning. So continuing right now, at least, to be right at the bottom of that old bottom range. So I have 2 ranges. Now I have 3 ranges because we have this range from 70 basically to 78. Am I doing this right? I'm sorry, 79, from like 79 to 85. Then we got an 85 to 90. I'm 90 something. And then you've got the 99 to 109. Anyway, there's all these ranges. But anyway, that's where it is right now. And oh, by the way, let's see, Bitcoin is up a little bit and Tesla is up not as much. So this morning it's not working that well. There you go. That's all I've got for you this morning. I know I went long. That housing article was too good to pass up. I really felt that I needed to give you all that detail because if most of us are home owners, some of you own more than one home. And many of you have children that are maybe looking or considering getting a home. Moreover, it's so important for the overall economy. And that's what we do on the show is we bring you all this stuff. Okay, let's see real quick. Bradford Ferguson later tonight, and then Cern Basher after that at 7:45. And like, subscribe, notify, and hit Patreon. We need more Patreon people. And I think that's it. That's it. That is all. It's been great talking to you.